Even after all these years doing these videos, a lot of people ask me why I am a NEET. You know, I've been doing this for a long time. I have spent the past several years talking about why I prefer this lifestyle and why I'm like this. I think in the past I evangelized much more about it. My videos had much more of like uh, this quality, almost like naive quality, where I was extremely excited all the time about the lifestyle that I was living, and I was really promoting it and heavily laying into the other way of life as conformist, as a waste of time, as unfulfilling, and I had inherently a very positive outlook on my lifestyle as a NEET, which I felt was important to express primarily for the people who are not NEETs that don't understand it, and for the people that aren't NEETs but may understand it because they're having trouble with work or something. What I didn't realize until a little bit later is that there are a lot of people who really, really do not like being NEETs, and this has always puzzled me. There has never not been a time when this has been difficult for me to understand, primarily because in my videos, I seek to share things that I enjoy, things that make me happy, things that I spend all the time thinking about and engaging with. And as a NEET, when the camera is off, I continue to do the same thing. However, I find that in so many cases you have these people who are not NEETs because they decided, oh, well, I could be spending my time better than selling it all to somebody else who doesn't really have my best interest in mind, than essentially giving my life away in exchange for a wage. Instead, what you have are people who are in that situation because they failed at getting a job, or they failed at functioning in what some people call the real world, IRL. And I do not relate to these people. But moreover, I find them to be kind of precarious, like they give NEETs a bad name, but they're highly, like, overly represented on the internet, which is part of the problem. Like, go to any space that explicitly discusses being a NEET, and it's filled with people like that. Spend more time on the broader internet, and what you start to see is a little bit different, because there are NEETs all over the internet, but they don't make it part of their identity. They do not talk about it a whole lot. They're just living their life. And they're all throughout various communities on the internet. So I've started to think that in some way, identifying as a NEET or talking about it very openly in like an organized space seems to attract these people who are interested in the topic, not as like this liberatory experience that can save you from the oppression of work or whatever, but rather the reason they're attracted to it is because it is a topic that relates to them because they happen to have fallen into it. You know, they didn't go there out of some value assessment about the world or something. They just accidentally ended up there. But I think we need to change all this. I think that spaces on the internet that talk about NEETs should maybe not gatekeep a little more against these kinds of negative people, but discourage them from taking over the space as much. But how? How do we do that? The way that we discourage these people from taking over the NEET spaces is by being more vocal. If we are the loudest members of our communities, then there is less of a potential for these people to completely hijack the discussion. So if NEET spaces become spaces that are about having fun, that are about being liberated from work, that are about actually enjoying the time that you spend, that you have on this earth, uh, then I could see these people beginning to feel less welcome over time, beginning to feel less understood, and then just finding their own spot. You know, like there are specific subreddits for people who are into a certain hobby and then people that are getting out of a certain hobby. It happens, right? There's no reason why NEET spaces should broadly include people who don't even want to be there in the first place because they still romanticize the idea of having a job. It's like deeply ingrained in their brain that it's a good thing due to societal programming, or they're simply just too uncreative or uninteresting to actually make use of their time in a meaningful way. And I mean, it's got to suck to be those people, but like, I mean, they exist, right? Some people legitimately just cannot fathom having hobbies or having to come up with their own things to do. It's like they spend every day as like this blank kind of person. Um, and it's strange. Like I almost couldn't imagine that someone like that could exist for the longest time until actually interacting with people like that. And then I was like, oh, there's really nothing going on upstairs with some people. And it's crazy because you almost don't want to acknowledge that or think about them like that because it feels kind of bad to think of someone else in that way. But it's true. There genuinely are some people out there that just like they cannot fathom having to come up with things to do themselves and having to like find fun instead of just being told to do things their whole life by somebody else. Um, they need sort of that external pressure in order to create structure. It's very odd to me, but more often than not, these kinds of people end up invading the spaces and hijacking the conversations, and it's completely unnecessary. There's literally no need for these people to play such a prominent role in the communities. But moreover, I think that under the banner of NEET, under the flag of NEET, following the eightfold NEET path, um, we can start to see more and more people living out better and more fulfilling lives, lives that are not of subjugation and alienation, but rather liberation and freedom, which is ultimately what so many of us on the planet are striving for. It just so happens that when you reclaim freedom over your time, you can start to reclaim freedom over everything else in your world as well.